Sympathy for his family.
Today on the News and Why It Matters, we've got joining us special guest author Kevin Williamson, author of The Smallest Minority. Whoop whoop. Also coming up, Chris Cuomo. He dropped some F-bombs.
Oh, he's not on? If he's on, I'm leaving.
No, he's not on.
No, but Kevin has his cell phone number, and I think we should call him.
That would be really a really fun experiment. Chris Cuomo dropping F-bombs all over the place. We'll get into that. Also, Hong Kong, what's going on over there and why it should matter to you. Got a lot coming up, and it starts right now. Welcome to the News and Why It Matters. I am Sarah Gonzalez. Before we get into the conversation, I want to thank our sponsor, realestateagentsitrust.com. Glenn, this is your company.
Yeah, this is my company that I started a few years ago, probably 5 or 6 years ago. I'd had trouble selling my house. My wife and I they just kept saying, the real estate agent kept saying to us, well, we're going to have another opening and we'll blow up some balloons. And I'm like, balloons are not, that's not a plan to sell a house. Balloons shouldn't be your plan. And so we started realestateagentsitrust.com because I started working with about this group in the 500 best real estate agents in the country, according to the Wall Street Journal. I was working with about 50 of them. And I started asking them, so how do you find a good real estate? What should you do? So we started doing that for people, and all we do is we just matchmake. We know where the best people are. We know who the best people are in your area who can price your house right, sell your house. Their plan is more than balloons.
It's balloons and cookies.
Well, yeah. Oh, now see, now you've blown the whole thing.
Whole business models out there.
All right. Realestateagentsitrust.com. That's realestateagentsitrust.com.
All right, so Chris Cuomo.
Yeah.
He got into it. He was out in New York with his family. Now, I will say I've heard conflicting reports. One, I heard that it was his wife and kids there, or at least the daughter. Another, I heard that the children were not present. Obviously, we don't know which one is true.
This looks like he's under a big top, though.
Yeah,
it looks like it's at the New York Circus.
It does.
Which they do in the summer.
Or Whataburger.
Whataburger.
Could potentially be at a Whataburger.
Probably not in New York, though.
No, okay.
Probably not. But apparently he was, of course, provoked by some gentlemen who were calling at him. I don't want to say it. It's a very offensive.
Fredo. I'll say it.
All right, we got to get the censor up in there by the time for air.
I'm married into a very Italian family. They're not freaking out about Fredo, okay? They're not. Everybody knows who Fredo is. If you're Fredo, you don't like being called Fredo. If you're not Fredo, you don't care.
Well, apparently...
Can we call this a controversy Alfredo?
No.
Apparently, Chris Cuomo did not like being called Fredo. He had some things to say. Watch.
I thought that's who you were.
No, punk-ass bitch from the right call me Fredo. My name is Chris Cuomo. I'm an anchor on CNN. Fredo is from The Godfather. He was that weak brother.
Isn't that your brother?
And they use it as an Italian aspersion. Any of you Italian?
I got a little.
It's an insult to your people. It's an insult to your people. It's like the N-word for us. Is that a cool thing?
You're a much more reasonable guy in person than you seem to be on television.
If you want to play, then play. If you've got something you want to say about what I do on television, then say it. But don't default me.
Hey, listen.
What?
I don't want any problems.
Yeah, you're going to have a big problem.
What's the
It's a
problem?
little different on TV. Don't insult me like that.
I didn't insult you.
Call me Fredo. It's like I call you punk bitch. You like that? You want that to be your nickname?
I didn't call you that.
You called me Fredo. You know my name's not Fredo.
I thought your name was.
You did not think my name was Fredo. Don't be a liar.
I thought your name
You want to
was.
be a man, stand up like a man.
I'm standing up, man.
You want to be a man, I'm
Yeah,
here.
I'm standing
Then own it. Then own what you
Listen,
said.
man, hey.
Then own what you said.
Listen,
Take
man,
him-
I don't have a
what?
problem with you,
Yeah,
man.
you're going to have a problem.
What? What are you going to do about it?
I'll ruin you. I'll throw you down these stairs like a punk.
Please do.
Why, so you can sue?
You don't want
So
to
you can sue?
Well, why don't you do it
Go
then?
take a swing. You want to call me Fredo? Take a swing.
I'm not going to swing
Take
at
a
you.
swing. Watch your hands.
I'm not gonna
Take a
swing
swing.
at you.
Watch your
This
hands.
guy.
Take a swing. No, come on, boy.
I'm not
Come on,
gonna
boy.
tell you.
So you want to call me? Call me.
Hey, listen, man.
I'm right
not
here.
doing anything.
I'll wreck your. I'll wreck your.
Overreaction?
Can you imagine? Can you remember one of the reasons why I finally said I'm moving from New York is because my family, we were watching Hitchcock in the park. We were at the New York Public Library right on the back lawn. and we were watching it. My daughters and I wanted to see it forever. We had talked for years about going. We just never went. I went. They threw wine at my wife. They tweeted about it. They mocked us. They hit us. My children and my wife were yelled at, called all kinds of names, just going to the restroom. We don't want your kind here. I finally got up. We stayed. We watched the movie. I didn't say anything about it. Finally, at the end, when we got up, people applauded that we were leaving. And I said, I can't believe you're adults. I can't believe you're adults. And walked away. I had one security guard with me when it started. I had 6 by the end. They kept calling them in, okay? So hostile. Can you imagine if I would have reacted like that, what would have been said about me? Oh my gosh.
Well, in a sense, there's some good news there, though. Like, if anyone's ever actually been in a bar fight or something like that, the guy who starts saying "take a swing," you're safe. That guy's not going to hit you.
Yeah.
The guy who's gonna hurt you is the guy who doesn't say anything.
Yeah, right.
Who just like gets real quiet all of a sudden, and then it's a problem.
But there's a couple of things about this. I have sympathy. People have to stop doing this. Stop treating people like cartoon characters, especially when they are with their families. Their families don't have anything to do with it. Stop it. Leave people alone. With that being said, welcome to the club, Chris. Welcome to the club. This is what conservatives have gone through, and liberals and people like Chris Cuomo have supported or silently condoned when they were telling people go in and tell them they got to get out of the restaurant. Go in. Look at how many people have done it. You see Chris Cuomo? Was he raising the banner saying, hey, this has got to stop? I don't have sympathy for him, but I do for his family because I've gone through it before.
Well, not only has he said, go in or he has condoned going in and pushing back against Trump and his administration, but Stu, he also was very critical of Nick Sandmann for standing in silence.
Did a lot better job
he
than
was
Chris
being provoked.
I will say a message to the kids, don't do steroids. Roid rage is real, as you see right there. Because, that is psychotic behavior. Like, I think there is a legitimate...
Psychotic.
There's been a bunch of conservatives who have said, like, look, you got to leave this guy alone. It's not cool, which is totally true. It's not
Totally
cool.
true.
He handled it. He was the worst. He was worse than the people who actually antagonized him there. That's a psychotic way to handle any situation, and that's essentially what he does on the show every night. It's just that's him in person doing it.
He's just an angry guy.
Yeah,
really angry.
That's completely out of control, right? That is the type of behavior that, like, if Alec Baldwin, right? We're done. We're done for today. That is. If Alec Baldwin does that, it's on every single tabloid, and he is being followed around, antagonized by the media to get another reaction like that. They may start doing that with Cuomo. If they know they can get that out of you, this isn't going to stop.
I understand kind of why Alec Baldwin gets so upset about it. A little bit Cuomo here, because people are breaking New York rules. You're not supposed to talk to celebrities in New York, and because it's based on the absolutely
Really?
true,
Because I didn't
the absolutely true New York assumption that every man in New York thinks he's the most important person in the room, and it would be beneath him to go talk to someone just because they're famous.
So let me ask you this, because I think this is the most disturbing thing that happened today in regards to this. The president tweeted, should he get a red flag? Should we give him a gun? Would Chris Cuomo be given a red flag for his recent rant? Filthy language, total loss of control. He shouldn't be allowed to have any weapon. He's nuts. I'm not for red flags. I'm not for that at all. And the president is not, I don't think, is being cute and sarcastic here. He is actually making the point.
Yeah.
This is the perfect example of somebody that should be given a red flag and shouldn't have the right to buy a gun.
Because like a Second Amendment activist who comes out and is against red flag laws and is being a wise ass is kind of how, when I first saw that tweet, I initially took it. Like you're just being, oh yeah, well maybe this guy's crazy too.
Right.
But this is the guy who's pushing for these laws.
Yeah.
This is the guy who is telling America we need them, and he's coming.
He's the guy who said also this week, was it this week or last week, that he believes he can convince his supporters that the time is now for these changes. That's really dangerous.
What I don't get about the red flag stuff is that, so I've argued that this represents suspending someone's constitutional rights without due process. And people like my colleague David French have said, well, we do that with, for instance, involuntary commitments. I get it. So if that's the pattern and the precedent, why not actually use the involuntary commitment process as the red flag process? If you think someone actually is a danger to themselves or the public, why make it about the guns? I mean, make it about the person who's a danger, right?
Correct.
Yeah, it's just another backdoor thing for people who are just culturally uncomfortable with firearms.
And I'm really uncomfortable. I mean, you talk about commitment. Every country that goes awry, they use psychiatry as their way to silence their enemies. The Soviet Union in, 1978 had 4.5 million people in their crazy houses. And most of them were there because they didn't believe in Marxism.
Mm-hmm. A whole chapter in a book about that, but not this book.
Not this book.
Which book?
Well, there's a little bit, the socialism book. Well, there's a little bit in this book about it, not to do book plugging right now. But the history of the misuse of medical authorities and psychiatric authorities is it's just endemic to totalitarian
And
systems.
let me tell you something. These are the people right now, the medical authorities, are the ones that are telling us that men can have periods. Which one of us is crazy?
Yeah, that's a great point. Wrapping up Chris Cuomo before we move on. So, of course, the CNN spokesperson said, we fully support him because there was an ethnic slur used against him.
It's
so we
not
fully
an
support
ethnic.
him.
Anna Navarro used that ethnic slur on Chris Cuomo's show.
Interesting,
in the last
you
couple
would
of months.
say that. We happen to have that
do we?
clip.
I'm sorry.
Let's watch.
I was reading Charlie Cook on that.
First of all, zoos maybe have fences to protect the animals from people like Donald Trump Jr. who like to shoot them. But at the end of the day, Donald Trump Jr. and whatever he says, can I just file my nails? I mean, this is an entitled, rich, spoiled little brat who's only called to fame as being his daddy's son, who hasn't built anything of his own, who hasn't done anything of his own, who is somehow trying to hang on to the fame of his father in order to have some level of relevancy. Steve was right. He didn't even make the cut that his brother-in-law and sister did to be part of the Oval Office and the White House staff. Daddy kept Fredo back home. So who cares what Donald Trump Jr. says? Who cares what Donald Trump Jr. says?
Quite a bit.
I didn't hear a censor. They didn't censor when she said that.
He also didn't follow it up. He didn't respond, but he also didn't follow it up with, hey, that's a racial slur.
Yeah.
Which you would think he would.
Fredo as a term for someone who's weak and part of a powerful family is it's so done. It's so tired. Yeah. I liked it better when I was calling the Trump guys Uday and Kusei.
We got to take a break. Back in a minute.
I love how she's like, oh, well, his only claim to fame is being his daddy's son. Well, at least he has an identifiable claim to fame. What is Anna Navarro's claim to fame?
Here's the McCain campaign's Hispanic outrage.
Crazy.
Before we get back into the conversation, I want to thank our sponsor. We've got a new sponsor today, NetSuite. So being a small business owner, I know personally that if you don't know your numbers, you really don't know your business. And the problem that you have as you're growing your business that keeps you from really understanding your numbers is you've got this hodgepodge of business systems. So you've got, one system for accounting, and then one system for sales, one system for inventory. It's impossible.
Maybe some of it's just on a bunch of spreadsheets that you can't find when you need them. Something like that. Not that I've ever had a problem like that.
Really?
In my entire life.
Maybe your system is just like, hey, Bill, are we okay? That's a bad one.
That's a bad system.
That's not what you want either. It's not going to grow your business.
Right.
So you've got this big inefficiency, and it's just taking up too many resources. And as a small business, you don't have time to be dealing with that. You don't have a giant HR department. So might I recommend that you try NetSuite by Oracle? It is the business management software that handles every aspect of your business in an easy-to-use cloud platform. It gives you the visibility and control you need to grow your business. So you can save time, money, and unneeded headaches by managing sales, finance, accounting, HR, everything right from your desktop or phone. Isn't technology wonderful? I love technology. That is why NetSuite is the world's #1 cloud business system. Right now, NetSuite is offering you a valuable insights with free guide, 7 key strategies to grow your profits. You can go to netsuite.com/why. That is netsuite.com/why. Go there now to download your free guide, 7 key strategies to grow your profits. All right, so Hong Kong is really heating up, has heated up in the last few days. I know that they had these protests that started in, June over the extradition bill, but in recent days, it's gotten really scary.
What's happening in Hong Kong is going to be happening for the next 40 years, if it lasts that long, because they are changing hands. I mean, they don't belong to Great Britain anymore. They belong to China. And part of that deal was they're going to slowly implement these laws. Well, the people in Hong Kong don't like it. I wouldn't like it. None of us would like it. What's really sad is I'm watching these people, and if you watch, and you'll see a lot of the green lasers everywhere. They're trying to freak out the facial recognition system so they can't track them, but they're all going to be tracked. I feel like we're watching something that we know the ending to. No one in the world. They had this great moment yesterday where they sang the American national anthem, holding American flags. It's right here. We don't. Our NFL won't do that. They were doing it to try to get Americans to wake up and say, hey, we got to stop this. But our stock market was down, so Donald Trump decided to back off trade restrictions. The same day this is happening, we're letting our foot off of the trade restrictions a bit, which is a separate story. I'm against the trade restrictions, but it just shows you we're not going to do anything. And if we don't do something, no one will. We're watching dead people.
Yeah. Stu, you want to weigh in?
I mean, it feels like one of these stories, we've had this with Iran before, Iraq as well. Look, where there's been these times where people have risen up and they've taken on the totalitarian government, and we've kind of stood back and said, I hope they do well. It would be great.
Poland.
Yeah, I mean, there's been many cases like this, and I feel like we always have that talking point. It develops 2 or 3 years later where everyone's like, remember when we had this opportunity and they were all rising up and we didn't do anything? It feels like we're there in that moment right now. And, I mean, it's tough. I mean, if I'm a resident of Hong Kong, you have this situation where you don't have to deal with all of the nonsense of China right now. But I mean, if they continue to protest like this, China is going to crack down and make this into just China. And that is really bad for the economy, and not to mention for the people. It's really horrible for the people. How do you deal with this, though? I mean, obviously you support them. Maybe we're doing things behind the scenes. I'm always hopeful for that type of situation. But
I was just in Hong Kong, actually, in July. And it's a lovely, wonderful place. There's a great sense of possibility and affluence and prosperity there. And the one thing that really jumps out that you think about is that the guys in Beijing don't deserve to govern a place like that. But the truth is they don't really deserve to govern the rest of China either, because they are brutes and butchers. But I think you're right. We're not likely to do anything about it. I remember a time not that long ago when conservatives used to care about things like Taiwan. And I sort of suspect that
Taiwan's gone.
China could march into Taiwan tomorrow, and the United States would send them a strongly worded letter.
Yeah, we're not in a position with China to do anything. I'm reading a great book on China right now on their tech. They're much farther ahead than we think, and we've always looked at China as they just rip things off, and so they can't really innovate. That's not true. It's not true. It used to be true, but they have ripped things off to bring them up to speed. Now they are starting to innovate, and they're ripping our stuff off and making some of these things, I'm talking about online, making some of these things much better because they understand their market much more than we do. The world is in real trouble with China. Real trouble.
Our policy discussion on China is always 5 to 10 years behind the facts.
Yes.
I think you're right about that we assume that they're still this backward imitation economy when they're really something very different now.
Yeah. By 2020, 2025, we will pay the price for treating them as foolish con artists or rip-off artists.
What do you think the disconnect is between, Americans who are seeing all of this go on right now in Hong Kong, but who still think that it's a good idea to, hand over your freedoms to big government?
I don't know. I mean, you'll hear, Bernie and all of these people talk about how bad the government is and how, dictatorial we are. And then they'll talk about growing the size of government. So
also handing over your guns.
Yeah, and hand over your guns. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. There is no logic in today's world. I think Americans don't care. If they really watched it and had somebody really explain it, I think they would care, but they would do exactly the same thing. I don't know. What do we do about that?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Do you agree, Stu?
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating to see the direction we're going as we have these windows into the other options all around the world, right? Between Hong Kong, which is going on now. I mean, these guys are rising up and singing our national anthem and praising the freedoms
They built
of our
another
economy.
Statue of Liberty.
Yeah.
Just like they did in Tiananmen Square.
Yeah.
These are the people we want in our country.
Yeah, and then you have Venezuela being a similar thing where like you have an entire society. Here are options like, here's your menu, and we're seeing the other things on the menu all melt down, but we just want to reject what we have so badly and move towards those things, and I just do not get it.
Yeah. So, Teen Vogue. I know you guys are avid readers of Teen Vogue, yes?
Subscriber. Yep.
Okay, good. Well, Teen Vogue has given a very, very important lesson for all of their readers, their teen readers, concerning how to get an abortion if you're a teen. They posted this on Snapchat. And so if we could just go through imagine this, you're 16, you're pregnant, and you don't want to be, okay? How you can go about having access to abortion should be your right, regardless of your parents' beliefs. Unfortunately, not every state legislature agrees, but we here at Teen Vogue are here to tell you that. So the first step is knowing your state's rules when it comes to parental consent. Let's say your state's law does require that your parents are involved. Well, you know your parents best, and if you feel their reactions might be hostile, you should act accordingly. Regardless, it's always best to tell your parents as long as you feel safe. No matter what your parents' abstract views are, they might behave far more tenderly when their own child needs access to abortion care. That's very sweet. There is another legal option in many states that would let you get an abortion without parental approval called judicial bypass procedure, but it takes time and involves testifying before a judge. In any case, you can also contact your local abortion fund if you need help paying for it on your own. That's very tender.
Teen Vogue just saying, look at me. Please.
Yeah.
Please, we have no money. Look at me.
They're just it's just a magazine at this point, which is just a giant Twitter troll. Like I swear every one of these stories is just designed to get people all upset about it. I love there's this weird thing where that abortion activists do where they're like, well, it's going to take time. You'd have to talk to a judge. You'd have to drive up to 45 minutes. And it's like, oh, well, I'm sorry for the freaking inconvenience here. I mean, I know you're ending a life, but I mean, a whole conversation and a drive? Wow.
Can't Amazon Prime that?
Yeah, I need my abortion within an hour.
Yeah. I like the Orwellian language, how abortion has become abortion care. That's very interesting and worthwhile. The other thing is that if you pierced a 14-year-old girl's ears or gave her a tattoo without her parents' consent or something like that, you would probably go to jail. You would certainly lose your business license. In the context of, irrespective of the question of abortion itself, of providing medical services to minors outside of their parents' review seems to me like a fairly obvious one, given where the rest of our laws tend to be on issues like that. And this is just another example of the sort of special pleading for a sacrosanct version of abortion.
Yeah. All right, back in a minute. I love that your parents' abstract views.
Yeah.
Were you abstractly pregnant?
In case you didn't hear earlier, Kevin, he's got a book out that you really, really need to get. It's called
funny.
The Smallest Minority. It's funny. You come on here and you're so incredibly smart. And people don't they forget. They don't realize that you're actually really funny.
Yeah, I hope so. The book is sort of an unusual book for me in the sense that I wrote it in the filthy way I talk in private, and so it's not one for the kids, but it's a little splenetic, but I think funny, but a serious point about our inability to rise above the team sports aspects of politics and culture and deal with one another as individuals and citizens.
Did you send a copy to Chris Cuomo?
I think we did, actually.
Okay, he needs to read it. The smallest minority.
Maybe what pissed him off.
It's autographed. You're Fredo.